القصة بدأت بتاريخ 12/11/1978 لما انطفت محطة العيش التابعة لشركة النفط، وعلى طول طلعوا 7 مهندسين وفنيين ومعاهم خبير أمريكي عشان يعرفون وين الخلل. ولما وصلوا شافوا طبق طائر واقف يم محطة العيش، واستغرب وجود هذا الجسم أكثر من 7 دقائق، وبعدها ارتفع وطار واختفى. ومن طار رجعت الكهرباء للمحطة واشتغل جهاز اللاسلكي اللي من خلاله تم إبلاغ وزارة الداخلية، وطبعا احضروا الشرطة وعاينوا المكان واخذوا أقوال الشهود ال7، وصار هذا الموضوع حديث الكويت كلها. وطبعا القبس غطت هذه الواقعة وقابلت مدير عام الشرطة اللي أكد بأن هناك مهندسين وفنيين ومعاهم خبير أمريكي شافوا الطبق الطائر، وأن الأطباق الطائرة تحب الأماكن المكشوفة. وبعدها ب3 أيام تم تشكيل لجنة من قبل مجلس الوزراء مكونة من وزارة الداخلية والدفاع والمواصلات لدراسة الموضوع وعرضه على مجلس الوزراء. الموضوع كان شاغل الكويتيين لدرجة أن تلفزيون الكويت قابل شخص يدعي بأنه شاف طبق طائر. شوف المقابلة.
صور اللي التقطها المصور الصحفي علي شاش لما أطلق عليه الأطباق الطائرة. وقبل أن تلتقط هذه الصور بدأت هذه القصة، فلنسمعها معا.
الساعة 11:30 يوم الجمعة، كنت بتكلم مع صديقي، وكان الشباك مواجه لنادي القادسية، وأنا كنت بطلع على جهة نادي القادسية، فوجد جسم مضيء لفت نظري. بدون شك إنه يعني هناك بالنسبة للأطباق الطائرة نزلت في الكويت مرات كما يقول يعني قبل شهر أو أكثر، شهر ونصف. ويعني القوة الخارقة اللي يملكها الطبق الطائر أدت إلى أنه تفكيري يكون بهذه الصورة.
إيه صح اللي سمعتوه، فعلا فوق نادي القادسية طبق طائر. وكبرت القضية لدرجة أن الإمارات رفعت حالة الطوارئ في محطاتها لمراقبة وجود طبق طائر. في تصريح نشر بكونه مع العالم الفضائي المصري فاروق الباز يؤكد بأن لا يستبعد وصول طبق طائر للكرة الأرضية عشان تدرسنا وتدرس الأرض. وفي تاريخ 24/1/1979 أعلن معهد الأبحاث وفي مؤتمر صحفي بأن الأطباق الطائرة ما هبطت الكويت، وأن اللي شافوه الناس هو أجسام مضيئة، وأن مجلس الوزراء وافق على أن اللجنة تقوم بدراسة إمكانية إنشاء محطة لرصد أي تغييرات في الأرض والأجسام الغريبة والنجوم والنيازك. بالمناسبة كل هالمعلومات تلقونها في أرشيف القبس بريميوم.
An extensive program of research and development in the field of disc flight, which was started in 1952, is being conducted by Avro Aircraft Limited at Malton, Ontario. Early studies on behalf of the United States Air Force proved the feasibility of a circular planform vertical takeoff aircraft utilizing a system of peripheral jets for propulsion, stabilization, and control.
What you are witnessing is one of the most bizarre technologies of the mid-20th century. The year was 1960. The Cold War was looming over America, and within 5 years, American troops will be entering Vietnam, many of them by helicopter. The helicopter's role was clear: a vertical takeoff vehicle capable of rapidly deploying behind enemy lines with no need for runways. It could carry both men and weapons and serve a multitude of roles, but its speed and maneuverability left it vulnerable to attack, and it could not intercept enemy planes. The Avrokar was envisioned as a solution, a new type of airframe that could fulfill both the role of a helicopter and a supersonic jet fighter. And it all began life as Project 1794, with the goal of creating a vertical takeoff and landing aircraft capable of flying at 3 times the speed of sound with a service ceiling of 100,000 feet. This all sounds like it was born from the imagination of alien conspiracy theorists, but the design was perfectly logical in the mind of John Frost, a renowned and respected design engineer. John's concept for the Avrokar was seeded from his experimentation with combining 2 physical phenomena: the Coanda effect and ground effect. The Coanda effect is simply the tendency of a fluid to follow the curve of a convex shape. Modern planes like the C-17 take advantage of the effect with flaps which can descend into the exhaust flow of the engines during landings. This would redirect some of the exhaust downwards to provide additional lift, allowing the C-17 to slow its approach speed and land on shorter runways. Most online publications on this vehicle overstate the importance of the Coanda effect, and in some cases completely confuse it for ground effect. While there are many test videos of John Frost experimenting with the effect with small prototypes, the effect does not get a single mention in the initial secret white paper where early designs were presented. There were multiple concepts drawn up for the Avrocar, but they all centered around one basic idea: direct high-pressure air 360 degrees outwards and use shutters and control surfaces to redirect it for control. The Coanda effect was not a feature of these kind of devices. The initial Blue Sky design called for a completely novel engine layout, which would not use conventional jet engines for power. Instead, there would be one large diameter engine surrounding the pilot, with the compressor stage mounted on the inner diameter, the turbine mounted on the outer diameter, with a combustion chamber in between. A major change from typical jet engines, which have these stages mounted sequentially over a common axle. This new engine would have been an ideal use of space, with fuel tanks mounted in a ring around the pilot, which presented a massive fire hazard but kept the center of gravity as close to the center of pressure as possible. However, designing an entirely novel engine for the prototype would have been far too costly, so a compromise design was created for the early prototype designs. Commercially available turbojets would be mounted radially around the disc in a repeating pattern. This created a radially symmetric design that would allow for repeating sections identical in construction. This was a huge advantage for the flying disc design, as it would reduce the number of parts needed, thanks to the radially symmetric design resulting in repeating parts. This would drastically reduce manufacturing costs. These turbojet engines would be mounted around a central turbine. The outlet pressure of these turbojets would drive this turbine in the middle section, and its remaining kinetic energy would be used to provide lift by exhausting it directly downwards. Meanwhile, the rotation of this turbine was powering two impeller levels mounted above and below the turbine. These centrifugal impellers would draw air from intakes above and below the disc and accelerate it radially outwards through ducts. Some of this air would be redirected into the inlet of the turbojet engines to maintain a constant ram pressure, which is the pressure we typically associate at the inlet